What's up? Jake Reed here. I hope my finger's not in the shot. No, looks good. I thought it'd be fun to do a video where I go a bit more in depth into the super dead drum sound. Sample, pack, sample, pack. I just thought it would be fun to kind of explain in a bit more detail how I go about getting that sound, because I've had a lot of questions about how do you do that. The first thing I would say is, this room is really tight sounding. I have fabric up on the walls here. I got a cloud up above the drums, which is really helpful. Got this bass trap down here. Wait, zoom out. So that really helps to keep things extra tight sounding. For instance, if I have this door open, you get a lot of that resonance. It's pretty low ceilings in here. I mean, I can touch the ceiling. That's how low it is. Please don't forget to hit that smash button and like the subscribe. Or whatever. If you like this, subscribe. If you don't like it, I don't know. Sorry. Okay, so I'm gonna start with the bass drum and just kind of go over how to get this bass drum nice and muffled up and super dead. Corgis and kayaks are not a necessity. This is the Kick Pro pillow. Doesn't have to be that. It's just something I got that's quick. It just does the job. It's kind of a weighted pillow, so it just helps. And then I put in this foam here because the next step that I do, again, this could change from like room to room. This is just how I do it in this room. Sometimes I'll be in a different studio. I'll muffle up the bass drum this much and it doesn't sound as good. And sometimes engineers will say like, hey, can you like back off the muffling a little bit? Because it's just, there's not enough tone. You get a lot of smack from the bass drum beater, but not a lot of tone. So anyway, this is just how it works in my room. Add the bricks, boom. And the bricks, I don't know, maybe there's a whole thing to the shell actually having some extra density and therefore it sounds lower, but I mostly just do it to keep the bass drum from sliding because these are old spurs. Make sure the bottom heads are off the drums. That helps a lot. Doesn't have to be a 60s round badge. It's okay to use any drums really. The main thing is to get them dead. Also, it doesn't matter what drum heads you use, for the most part, I should say. Let me just take these off real quick. Like on this kit, oh wow, that's tough. I got calfskin on here right now, and it actually sounds pretty good. The thing about calfskin is that it can obviously go up or down depending on the weather, and it just happens to be pretty cloudy and rainy right now in LA. So yeah, it actually works. Oh, dang it, I messed that up. Well, we'll fix that in a minute. Yep, this is gonna mess everything up. Can't get it off. Ah, dang it. Boom. And I think on the snare, it's just a regular old, yeah, coated ambassador. I'll show you what I got under here though. I literally never changed the tuning on this snare. Like I said, I'm going way in depth. This is an old head. I think it's just a coated ambassador. I'm not gonna take the tape off, but you get the idea. And I just put the cover on top of it. In general, it's a good idea to figure out which snare wires sound best on your drum. Sometimes just the stock ones that come with it. But like on this old Gretsch, it had some old beat up wires. So I put these Vic Firth snappy snares. They sound really good on this drum. They're nice and tight. I don't know how many strands, 20 strands, I guess. Let's hear where this kick drum's at now, just in the room. Very dead. It's really low too because it's so rainy today that the pitch has gone down a little bit. So I'm just gonna tighten it up just a hair. Still pretty low and dead. And while I'm at it, sometimes I use this Danmar beater when I want stuff to be really punchy and just have like a really straight down the middle kick sound. But I found that, you know, when you cover the drums, you get a little less attack. And sometimes that's a good thing and sometimes that's a bad thing. My whole concept is I want the bass drum to kind of match. I'll use this fluffy Vic Firth beater. You can see it's also kind of gotten worn down, but the Danmar beater was pretty punchy. Now with this Vic Firth one, you can hear this is just kind of loose anyway because it's so rainy. There we go. Maybe a little bit higher. Just get a nice, there we go. You can start to hear the low end come out in the room a little bit more. And that's how you know You got to hear where the bass drum sits. Like you find the fundamental pitch of the bass drum. And if you tune it too low, that goes away, right? It just becomes papery sounding. Aha. That's too high. This got bent up on the last session. Dang it. There we go. That's feeling pretty good. Oh my gosh, they're so low right now from the rain. This is another thing I like to do, is I'll tune the drums with the covers on. Some people like to tune the drums first and then put the covers on, but the thing is, that's not how they're gonna sound when they're recorded. So I like to just put the covers on, like so. And because of the rain, again, these are super low, so I'm just gonna tune them up just a hair. A little bit higher. And I'm going clockwise around the drum to tune this because it's a die-cast hoop. Tuning clockwise. That's something I learned from Aaron Surfati. I did an entire video on tuning. Did an entire video of tuning with Aaron. And that's one of the big things I learned from him a long time ago was if you've got a die-cast hoop, go clockwise. Or, you know, you don't have to go clockwise. You could go counterclockwise too. But just go in a circle rather than like a star pattern, just because die-cast is so stiff. There we go. Now we're getting, that's a little better. Maybe that's too high. I'm going to go back down a little bit. There we go. That sounded good. That's gotten too low. Yeah, it sounds pretty low right now. I'll just bring it up a little bit. Oh, that's, yeah, that was really loose. Aha. Maybe I'll go down just a little bit. There we go. Okay, back to the snare drum. Just so you can hear, this is what it sounds like. This has got all the tape on it. I mean, you could use like a ring or whatever. Doesn't sound great. It's pretty, I mean, it's pretty dead because it's an old head to begin with. It's not tuned super low either. It's just that the cover just takes out all those overtones, so you start to only hear more of the fundamental, which is really what we're doing. That's really the thing about super dead drums. I could maybe tighten that up just a hair. And that's going to sound really nice with our friend SM57. Actually, going to lower it just a little bit. Just had to lower it a little bit there. Cool. So that's kind of how I got the drums tuned. Hi-hats, these are just some old A's that I found somewhere. I got these at Pro Drum. They're stark paper thin. Woo! They're really thin. They're not matched. They're 13-inch. I got a big piece of tape on them because that also helps in the situation. I like these Avidus cymbals. This one's like a 18. Got this old K Istanbul here. Zildjian K Istanbul. Great cymbal. I love that cymbal. And then I just got this 19-inch Sweet Crash over here. You gotta use whatever cymbals as long as they're not ringing a lot when you're playing the drums. It's not bad. And I'll actually show you, because I do have a recording of me playing this kit in this room with a live band, and you can hear how the drums sit in the mix. Let's talk about mics. 451 on the hi-hat, kind of angled away from the snare. 57 on snare top. 441 on snare bottom, kind of pointing right at the snares there. Yes, indeed. 414 BULSs on toms. I'm actually gonna move that a little closer if I can. There we go. Boom, there's that. That's what it looks like from the side. Same thing on floor tom. Mojave MA1000s on overheads. And this is an X-Audio Beeb. It's like an old ribbon mic that they've restored. Very affordable, and they sound awesome. They have a nice mid-range push to them that sounds really cool. You don't have to use these microphones. It's not like these exact microphones are what makes the sound. Most of the sound is coming from the drums, the way I'm hitting them, and the way I'm tuning them. Of course, good mics do not hurt anything. I just kind of put the mics, no front head, obviously. This is just like an old, that sounds funny. This is just an old head that I cut out so I could protect the bearing edge. I'm just lining up my diaphragms here. Awesome. The last little piece of the pie that I've been using recently is this 633A, I believe. It is commonly referred to as the salt shaker mic. It adds a really nice pop to the kick drum. I'm just gonna lower it a little bit while holding the iPhone, no big deal. Kind of just get it right above the rim of the drum there, pointing at the snare. So yeah, that's what it looks like all mic'd up. Sometimes I'll use these room mics, but most of the time, I don't. They're just muted for the super dead sound. I should say though, if I'm recording for someone else, I will almost always still record the room mics. Even if I'm not gonna use them, I'll just mute them. Just because I still wanna give whoever's mixing it the option of having them, just in case they want a little more ambience or room sound. But this room's, again, so dead. Everything's going through these BAEs. Also going through these 500 series down here. Let me see if I can go down the line without looking. Kick in, kick out, snare top, rack tom, floor tom, overheads. You guys can see all my EQ settings. Just kidding. Well, I mean, you could if you wanted, but whatever. Hi-hat, snare bottom, and then these are the rooms. This is my mono room, and this is that Beeb Reslo overhead. All right, so before I hop over on the drums, I just real quickly want to discuss how I'm hitting the drums, because it has to do with how I'm setting the preamps and stuff. A big part of this sound is hitting the drums softer and turning the preamps up as much as you can. The harder you hit these kinds of drums with the covers on them and no bottom heads, the harder you hit them, the more attack you're gonna get out of the drum, which is cool, except the harder you hit them, the less tone you get, right? So you have to find the balance of attack and tone. You don't want to hit the drum so soft that you can't hear the stick hitting the drum, right? So you kind of have to find a balance of not completely going full on staple center rock band, but also not like, I'm like real afraid to hit the drums. I'm jazz guy over in the corner playing brushes or something like that. Just find like a nice middle ground where it sounds, you know, pleasing. You'll hear it. You'll be able to find the tone. Experiment with how hard or soft you're hitting the drums, and then see how far you can push the preamps. Turn up the preamps a little more so you can get more tone. A great anecdote, which I learned from my teacher and mentor, Peter Erskine, that he learned from Jim Keltner was let the microphones do the work. I always thought that was just such a great bit of wisdom for recording drums. Let the microphones do the work. Let the microphones do the work. Let the microphones do the work. Just let the microphones do the work, man. All right, with that being said, let's hop over on the drums real quick. Okay, so I'm still just dialing in tones here. I'll probably turn up my overheads just a hair more. All right, I'm back. So again, the key is just to, again, play a little softer than you normally would and let the preamps, let the microphones do the work. Just making a couple more adjustments here. All right. I'm gonna close that door. Well, hello there. I just wanted to real quick go through how I mix these drums in this trio setting. Not that I'm a real mixer or anything. This is just how I go about doing it. Doesn't mean it's the right way or the wrong way or any way at all. It just seemed to sound good at the moment, and that's how I go about most things. Here's what everything sounds like with no plugins. So here's the kick. That's what it sounds like by itself. And then the compression that I use in the mix. Not super dead sounding, but anyway, snare. So that's without the compression on. 1176, all buttons in. That's a nice smack to it, and just gritty. That's the all buttons in doing that. With the snare bottom end. Some toms. Tom EQ. With overheads. Room mics are muted. This crotch mic really adds a lot of grit, a lot of bite, a lot of point to the kick. That's what it sounds like by itself. Crazy, right? Okay, but the main thing is I got the radiator, the Saturn, and the Oxide all going with a little bit of bus EQ to kind of smooth out the top end, or cut out the top end, I should say. So that's with the radiator. Oxide tape. And then lastly, cutting out that top end helps. And there you have it. Pretty cool. And now, let's check out the full mix. 1, 2. That's all I wanted.
Yeah. Sample, pack, sample, pack, sample, pack, sample, pack, pack.